Tonight, it's Sal Pal on Patty Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, and why the Birds love turf. Sean Green on Ron Torbert, some Super Bowl game props, and why he likes the Birds. Ray Didinger joins to talk about Andy Reid, and also where the hell this Eagles team ranks all time. Finally, we'll wrap it up with Mike Sando from The Athletic. And we'll talk to Mike about why the Eagles might have had the best offseason of all time. That is all right now on a Super Bowl edition of This Week in Pro Football.
It's time for This Week in Pro Football. A deep dive into the key issues and marquee matchups in the National Football League. For the next 60 minutes, we invite you to sit back or lean in with host Pat Callahan as we preview the week's Eagles matchup, big games, breaking stories, and all news NFL. It's This Week in Pro Football, right now on JAKIB Media Sports.
All right, welcome everybody to a Super Bowl edition of This Week in Pro Football on JAKIB Sports. Pat Callahan joining you. I have an all-star cast tonight. Of course, the excellent Sal Paolantonio. I'll keep Sal dragooned with me as long as I can. Sean Green will talk some props and picks. Ray Didinger is going to join me to talk about where this Eagles team might rank all time. And also a little discourse on Coach Reid as he moves up the coaching ranks. And then Mike Sando from The Athletic. Mike's a great guy, a real stats guy and an analytic guy. And we'll talk to him about why the Eagles might have had one of the best off seasons ever. Okay, that's all to come. Sal Powell's going to join me in about a minute and a half. Some Super Bowl facts and figures. Well, let me just remind you too. Please give me a follow at TWIPF Pat on X. Okay, you can follow the network at JAKIB Sports. And hello and thank you to everybody on the chat for joining the show. I appreciate it very much. We will talk near the bottom of this hour when I hit you with my latest trivia question. We'll see. And remember, nobody looks it up. Nobody looks it up on this show. All right. All right. Some Super Bowl facts and figures per treehugger.com. A 30-second spot only costs you about $2.8 million. No big deal. All right. The percent of Super Bowl viewers who are not football fans, around 40. That's why they get such an enormous audience, because people who normally don't watch the NFL watch on Super Bowl Sunday. It's an amazing phenomenon. Number of chicken wings consumed estimated to be 1 billion on Super Sunday. 1 billion. And the amount bet on this Super Bowl is estimated by the American Gaming Association, $1.39 billion. Everybody talking about how the hell do we make ends meet? Well, here's 1.39 billion reasons why you can't make ends meet. All right, just some Super Bowl facts and figures for you there. Just a million things to talk about here on the show. It's a fascinating matchup, especially if you're from Philadelphia or Kansas City. Now, the rest of the country might not like this matchup because, let's face it, everybody has major Chiefs fatigue. And the Eagles are not that popular a team. They should be, but they're really not. And, of course, a lot of that's because of the way the fans get painted here in Philadelphia. But this is a great matchup. 1.5 is the spread. Chiefs are favored. That number has not budged all week long. We'll talk to Sean Green about that. But Xander, how about we drag this guy on here? I can't hold him back in the wings any longer. And that would be the great Sal Paolantonio, the author of Philly Special and How Football Explains America, and of course the national correspondent for ESPN. Sal, how you doing?
Pat, I've been embedded with the Eagles all week and will remain with the Eagles right up until the end of the game on Super Bowl Sunday. And I got to tell you, it's a very confident football team. They go into this game believing that they can win, much more confident than the team that faced the Patriots in Super Bowl 52. Definitely more confident than the team that faced the Patriots in 2004. This team believes they can win. They believe they have the team to knock off the Chiefs.
All right, Sal. So the mood of the team, you're saying, is confident and is pretty calm. Notice they've been here before, right?
I think they believe they know what they did wrong the last time and they can fix it, and they have a better team, better players at key positions. Running back, Saquon Barkley. Defensive tackle, Jalen Carter. Linebacker, Zach Bond. These are guys who are looking at possible MVP, possible Defensive Player of the Year, possible All-Pro linebacker for the Associated Press, Zach Bond. They believe that they have the personnel, they believe they have the experience, and they believe they have what it takes. Now, the bottom line is, to me, how they're going to defend Patrick Mahomes II. I think they can score 35 points in this game. I do.
Right.
I think they can score 5 touchdowns in this game. But can they hold off the charge of Patrick Mahomes II in the third and fourth quarter, which they didn't do in Super Bowl 57? That, to me, is the ball game right there, Pat.
Sal, listen, I'm going to leave with Mahomes. I just want to get your opinion on a couple of things here. Mahomes, by the way, these stats I'm about to rattle off to you, all courtesy of ESPN. Fascinating stats here. Mahomes has a QBR, Sal, of 89 with 21 touchdowns when he's losing. He has a higher QBR when he's losing than when he's winning. I mean, so that shows you the mettle that this guy brings. You have talked all season about Jalen Hurts has to get rid of the ball faster. Mahomes is 30-1 when releasing the ball in 2.79 seconds or less. What do the Eagles do about that, Sal?
Well, when I talked to Vic Fangio today, Pat, and the defensive players, it's pretty clear to me that they're going to try to get to Mahomes with 4. They're not going to blitz him. They're not going to dedicate an extra defender to blitzing Mahomes because they don't want to take that defender out of coverage. They are very reluctant to spy him for the same exact reason. You take a defender out of coverage. He's going to rush 4. He's going to drop 7. He's going to try to get home with 4 and hope that the matchup zone that they will run will be effective, specifically against Travis Kelce. You know, you're really running 2 defenses against Patrick Mahomes. That's the way Vic Fangio described it to me and what the film study shows. Once he snaps the ball and he is in the pocket, that's defense number 1. How are you reacting? Then once he breaks the pocket and starts to run, that's defense number 2. How are you making sure that he is contained, and how do you make sure that he doesn't get out of the pocket for long runs?
There you go. And like you've been saying the last couple of weeks, he doesn't get out of the pocket and then set you up and kill you with a throw just before he breaks the line of scrimmage. Sal, another thing about it when Mahomes has the ball, and courtesy of ESPN, Zach Vaughn is the number 1 linebacker in terms of pass defense, defending tight ends against the pass. Do you think the Chiefs will go out of their way to try and get Kelce lined up against get him away from Kelce and get him with instead get him with Gardner Johnson?
Well, they don't really move Travis Kelce around a whole lot, but when they do, you're exactly right. They're trying to isolate him away from the best coverage player. And the best coverage player is Zach Vaughn.
Right.
But the guy who has the most speed on the defense is Cooper DeJean. And in my view, they will use a lot of Cooper DeJean on Travis Kelce. They will drop C.J. Gardner Johnson and Reed Blankenship deep to take care of any kind of blanket coverage deep in the deep middle of the field. The middle of the field underneath is always open when you're playing a Vic Fangio defense. That's why you saw Zach Ertz have double-digit targets against the Eagles in the NFC Championship game.
Right.
I think Travis Kelce will have double-digit targets in this game, and the question is, can they disrupt him? Can they limit the yards after the catch? Can they make sure that when he does sit down in the zone, that he's not moving the chains? Yeah. This is a tall order, Pat. It's a very tall order.
It is, Sal. It is. But I'll tell you what, and it just deserves, if I may segue for just a second, Sal, and get your take or just a sentence from you on this too. Howie Roseman deserves some props here. All 8 of his first and second round picks since 2021 are expected to start in this game Sunday. That is an amazing performance by a general manager.
And he's not even in the top 5 in voting in executive of the year.
Isn't that something?
That's criminal. That's crazy.
That is crazy stupid that's the case. I did not know that. He's not even in the top 5 voting for executive of the year. That's great.
And it goes to show you, Pat, that within the cognoscente of the NFL, if you will, the Eagles are not a very popular team. They're just not.
No.
Going back to your point, they're popular among fans. I'll say that. They are definitely popular among fans. But, they just don't get the benefit of the doubt among those people who are the opinion shapers in the NFL. They've been doubting about Jalen Hurts. Nick Sirianni all year long.
That is correct.
And now Roseman gets no respect.
Yeah, and it's exactly what you just said. The doubts about Sirianni and the doubts about Hurts. All right, when we get back, Sal, we're just going to take a quick break here. I want to talk to you about Jalen Hurts and what his mood and attitude is going into this game. Also, about how Sirianni and Kellen Moore will counter Steve Spagnuolo's very exotic blitz schemes. We'll talk about that. And I also want to ask Sal about this season and how much of what happens Sunday will determine how successful this Eagles season is. We're going to do all that with Sal Paolantonio in just a minute here on This Week in Pro Football, presented by Kennedy Auto.
Welcome back. We've got another exciting play underway at KennedyAuto.com.
That's right. At KennedyAuto.com, you can browse their entire inventory from home.
The customer is scrolling hundreds of Ford, Mazda, and Subaru vehicles right at his fingertips.
He made his selection and got a bottom line price set directly to his email. He could go all the way.
And the deal is good, all without leaving his couch. Incredible. KennedyAuto.com. Enjoy your ride.
Discover the essence of true community banking with First Bank, your trusted partner across Eastern Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Their network of branches brings you convenient access to dedicated personal bankers who understand your unique needs. At First Bank, you're not just a customer, you're a valued member of the community. Additionally, they are excited to announce the opening of 2 new branches in Media, Pennsylvania and Trenton, New Jersey, bringing their personalized banking services even closer to you. Connect with any member of the team today at their Westchester office, conveniently located at 849 Paoli Pike, or call them at 484-881-3800. First Bank is an equal opportunity lender and member FDIC.
Johnny Apple's Restaurant and Bar opened in 2001 and for over 20 years has been serving great food and good times to Bucks County residents, friends, and family. Ideally located at 184 Buck Road in Holland, Johnny Apple's offers a terrific array of steaks, seafood, and daily specials. They also host private parties and affairs of any size. For excellent food, great company, and a relaxed lunch or dinner, check out Johnny Apple's Restaurant at 215-953-9900 or at johnnyapplesrestaurant.com.
Talking with the great Sal Paolantonio here on This Week in Pro Football. Sal, how many is this for you? Is this 31 now for you?
This is 30 Super Bowls for me with ESPN, 33 overall.
Wow, man, look at you. And you still look that sharp. Look at you, pal. Congratulations. 33 Super Bowls. That's not bad. Sal, what's the mood in the town? Do you see this as being a majority green crowd going into the game Sunday?
Yeah, I haven't seen too many Chiefs fans so far. A lot of Eagles fans here, a lot of Eagles energy for sure. But I am around the Eagles Hotel. I haven't been around the Chiefs Hotel. But when you go around the French Quarter, you see a lot of people from Philly. It's definitely Philly proud. Yeah. There's no question about it. I mean, it was big in Jacksonville, not so much in Minneapolis because it was Ice Station Zebra, if you remember, for Super Bowl 52. Right. It was so cold. And then in Scottsdale, because Scottsdale is a schlep, it wasn't a big deal. But people are coming down to New Orleans for sure. I'm expecting a big Eagles crowd for sure.
All right. So I want to take a few minutes now to talk about when the Eagles have the ball. And I'm going to start you with this, if I might. The Chiefs have not allowed a 100-yard rusher, a running back, all year. The only one that gained over 100 yards on him was Lamar Jackson. But the highest running back rushing totals against Kansas City have occurred in their last couple games. Joe Mixon for Houston, and then it was Derrick Henry. It was James Cook with Buffalo. Do you see that as a good trend? And is Kansas City maybe wearing down a little bit against the run and with Saquon coming in?
Well, in my view, the Eagles will be able to move the ball however they want to against Kansas City. They can throw it against Kansas City. They can run against Kansas City. The issue is when they are behind and they have to throw. That's the problem that teams get into. When they have to throw, that's when Spagnuolo is at his best.
Okay.
When he forces things on you, he controls who wins or loses on 3rd and 4th down. But if the Eagles are moving the ball and have a lead, that mitigates what Spagnuolo can do.
Right.
And in my view, the Eagles have got to do a really good job of making sure Justin Reed and Trent McDuffie and the rest of that secondary is occupied away from the line of scrimmage.
Right. Right.
That means throwing the ball early.
Right. And I guess, Sal, too, I think it's critical. And, of course, this is not exactly genius here that I'm saying, but if the Eagles could get into a bunch of manageable 3rd downs where Barkley is an option, I think that would help them a great deal because, I mean, like anything 3rd and 5 or less, I think he's somebody the Eagles should consider giving the ball to.
Yeah, sure, Pat, for sure. I mean, the focus here clearly is Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. That's the way this thing will go. And you can just tell both of them are extremely committed, mind, body, soul, to finishing this job.
Right.
I mean, it's been pretty intense to watch both of these guys, especially Jalen.
Yeah.
Jalen's talked about having a chip on his shoulder and a fire being lit under him after losing Super Bowl 57. And he, without a doubt, not Barkley, he has set the tone at this Super Bowl. And I get the sense just being around them since Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday now. So this is 4 days of media exposure. A, they're not used to this. B, they're ready for it to be over. C, they believe they're ready to play this game now and win it.
All right. Especially, I mean, Hurts, especially, Sal, if I may ask you to wax on that for just a second. This is a guy that's 42-12 in his last 54 starts. And he's also, I was reading a piece that your colleague Tim McManus did for ESPN.com about the fact that with Jason Kelce retiring, Hurts is now doing the pre-snap reads. Have you seen substantial growth from him in just this year alone? And you mentioned the chip on his shoulder. Do you think, I mean, is there any resentment on his part, do you think, versus the fact that the light never stopped shining on Patty Mahomes?
Oh, I don't know if it's resentment, but, the bottom line is Jalen Hurts has the best record in football since 2021 by quarterbacks other than Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
But Mahomes has Super Bowl trophies. And that, to me, is the bottom line. And I think Jalen Hurts understands that. Anybody who's playing the game understands that Patrick Mahomes is going to get all the attention, good or bad, and that Hurts is always going to be doubted because he's in, comparison to Patrick Mahomes for so long now. But, the bottom line to me is if Hurts doesn't turn the ball over and this Eagles offense operates like it can, they'll be able to move the ball against Kansas City, I believe, either running or passing.
Right.
I do believe that.
So, Sal, you mentioned a couple of minutes ago, you said the Eagles should throw and get those back 7 of Kansas City off the line of scrimmage. So to start the game, you're saying the Eagles should establish the pass, right?
Yeah, Pat, I'm not coaching the team. But in my view, get those safeties and the corners occupied. If they know that you can hit the long ball, and that's always the danger, then they won't be able to nose up and worry about Saquon Barkley. And then you'll just let the beast number 26 loose behind that offensive line. When you think about it, there are so many outliers, so many superlatives associated with this Eagles team. Heaviest offensive line, number 1 running back, number 1 defense, number 1 pass defense, two Defensive Rookie of the Year top 5 candidates in Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell. 2 Defensive Player of the Year candidates in the top 4, Jalen Carter and Zach Bond. Superlatives all over the place.
Yeah.
They just got to finish the job, Pat. And they look at this opportunity as got to get it done. This won't happen again. They got next year when the new year starts, got to pay Milton Williams. Got to pay Josh Sweat. Got to pay Zach Bond. How are they going to do all of that and keep this team together?
Of course, you're exactly right. Now, still sticking with the Eagles when the Eagles have the ball. Kansas City now is appearing in their fifth Super Bowl in the last 6 years. Coincidentally, that's the term of their defensive coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo. He's been there for those 6 years. Reed and Mahomes obviously get 98% of the credit for Kansas City's dominance in the AFC. How much has Spagnuolo had to do this, flying just a little bit below the radar?
I don't think he's flying below the radar at all. You know, Mick Jagger called the Beatles the four-headed monster, John, Paul, George, and Ringo. And that's what the Chiefs are. They're a four-headed monster. It is Reed, Spagnuolo, Mahomes, and Kelsey. And you have to deal with all four of those guys. Any one of them at any time can have a hit record. You know, and that's to me, you have to put Spagnuolo right behind Reed. But as I try to stress before, and I'll stress it again, the Chiefs' defense is built to play with a lead, Pat.
Right.
They're built to play with a lead. Get up early on them and take them out of the comfort zone of sending Justin Reed, sending Trent McDuffie, sending Nick Bolton. Make those guys be occupied in coverage so that they are not a menace at the line of scrimmage. They are not built defensively to play from behind.
Yep. Sal Pal, you mentioned a few minutes ago that the Eagles, you're saying the mood of the team is really focused. And you mentioned how they want to get this done, right? So let me just ask you this. I want you to just philosophize with me for just a minute. This is a team that's won 15 of their last 16 games, 17-3 overall. It's been a fantastic season. And look at what you just ticked off a minute ago. Players just absolutely rising to the top. But my question is, does the mood of the team reflect the fact, Sal, that if they don't win this game Sunday, could this season actually be characterized as a failure?
Oh, it will be characterized as a failure, Pat, by many, many people, for sure. I know you're going to talk to Ray Didinger, and I will obviously defer to him. Mm-hmm. Looking for that word. Sorry about that. Mm-hmm. I'll defer to Ray Diddy. I think this is the best team the Eagles have taken to the Super Bowl. I think the evidence is overwhelming that it is. And I just gave you all the outliers. I gave you all of the superlatives associated with this team. I've never seen it before. Did I leave anything out? So you look at even within the history of the Super Bowl, there have only been two teams in the history of the Super Bowl that have had the number one rushing attack and the number one defense. That would be the Cowboys of 92, Super Bowl 27. They had boat raced Buffalo. The other is the Eagles. That's the other one. So within historical context, youngest defense ever. It's set up, as Saquon Barkley has said many times, people will listen. They have the team to win the Super Bowl. So when you put that all into the hopper and mix it up, if they don't win it, certainly there will be people that will look at it and say it was a failure. Now, you go back to Super Bowl 57. In my view, that was the worst loss in franchise history because they were up by 10 points at halftime. Yeah. There was only one other Super Bowl team that lost a double-digit lead at halftime. That was the Atlanta Falcons to Tom Brady, 28-3. So it was without a doubt, in my view, the worst loss in Eagles history. Right. So they've already suffered the worst loss in Eagles history under Nick Sirianni. They have to win this game, Pat.
Wow.
They must win this game.
Yeah.
And Nick Sirianni is going in the last year of his deal. Gaudy numbers, I get it. Yeah. Jeffrey Lurie was effusive in his praise of Nick Sirianni, but he refused to say that Nick Sirianni deserved a contract extension. And if you remember 2 years ago, when I asked Lurie whether Jalen Hurts had done enough for a contract extension, I asked him before the Super Bowl. He said yes. So I just know, to me, it's right on the racket. You got to complete the deal. Now, I'm not saying that Nick Sirianni won't get extended. It'll be super hard not to do that. But it all goes into the hopper as you try to figure out whether this is the guy that can get this team a championship.
That's amazing, isn't it? I mean, he's got to be the most disrespected coach in the National Football League. He's got to be just in terms of what he has accomplished. 2 Super Bowls in 4 years for this guy, and he wins the division, and of course he's helped by the way that Roseman has drafted the team. But boy, Nick Sirianni just it doesn't help, I guess, Sal, when he's up on the opposing sideline is a guy who has a hell of a chance to catch Don Shula, and has taken his team to his 5th Super Bowl in 6 years. It's funny, Sal. Are the Chiefs kind of playing with house money here? Because unlike the Eagles, if Kansas City loses this game, all right, they're still regarded as the dominant team in the AFC, right? And they've already accomplished what most teams haven't.
I think the Eagles are going to win the game, Pat.
Hey.
I do.
Yeah.
I think they're going to score enough points to hold off a furious charge in the end by Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. And I believe, Pat, that this is the second of 3 heavyweight championship bouts between the Chiefs and the Eagles and Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. I think we will see this again. These 2 teams are set up for long-term success. I do think that Sirianni will be back 100%, but I think they're going to win the game. I think they're going to score a lot of points. It's a very confident team. It's a dominant team. And if they don't win the game, which I don't think that they will lose it, if they do lose the game, it'll be it'll be viewed as a failure. No question. They have a team to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah. I think they're going to win the game too. Sal, answer me this. I see 3 possible outcomes in this game. I see the Eagles winning a close one, Kansas City winning a close one, or the Eagles winning, I don't want to say comfortably, but the Eagles winning, and as you said, withstanding a 4th quarter Mahomes onslaught, maybe to win by 7. I don't see Kansas City blowing the Eagles out. You agree with that? I
would agree with that. I don't see. The Eagles have just too much firepower. 1, and 2, they have too much of a defense. Now the Eagles are 5-0 on artificial turf this year, and they have given up only 11.6 points per game on artificial turf. That is a full touchdown better than the second best and third best teams, which were the Vikings.
The Vikings and the Chargers.
So the Eagles are playing what's called S5 Super Turf in the Superdome, and that's an extremely fast turf. It's what they call a performance turf, which it's a euphemism for speed turf. This turf was put in to help Drew Brees and that Sean Payton offense, work at optimum speed.
Right.
And it'll be a far cry from the crappy turf that they had 2 years ago and from the bad turf that they had in Brazil.
Right.
And you will see Saquon Barkley and Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. The Eagles are a vertical offense and explosive plays. The Chiefs are a horizontal offense. And the Eagles are youthful and have speed on defense. The turf, in my view, hands down favors the Eagles in this game. It's one of those little things. People are probably watching this and saying, Sal, you're crazy. Mm-hmm. Well, you got to look at everything. You got to look at the referee. Ron Torbert has thrown 49 offensive holding calls. 49. 5th most in the National Football League. Yeah. Ron Torbert has thrown the 5th most roughing the passer penalties in the NFL. So, that's a guy you can't get anything past Ron Torbert. He will call everything at the line of scrimmage. So you got to look at all of that, Pat. You got to look at all of it.
You just mentioned what you just said here. I only got a few seconds left with you. But what you just said there, what it reminds me of, Sal? It reminds you of those old Cowboy 49er NFC title games where the Eagles are like the Cowboys were then. Big 3, if you will, that they had on offense, the ability to pound you and beat you with the running game versus that classic West Coast offense that the 49ers had. The matchup's very similar to that.
100%. You're absolutely right. Yeah. The Eagles have the triplets, and the 49ers have got the
Chiefs. Exactly.
The Chiefs have got that short passing game that turns in. So that's why it's so important for Zach Bond, Oren Burks, Cooper DeJean, the underneath guys in this nickel defense of the Eagles to stop these guys from getting big gains from short passes, short area passes and runs.
Sal Pal, what's the matchup show focusing on this weekend?
Just exactly that, Pat. And the matchup show will be on, Pat, for the first time ever, Friday night, 5 p.m. on ESPN2.
Right.
Man,
We'll check that out. We will check that out.
That's a monster rating right there, Pat. Monster.
Almost as big as the ratings you get when you come on the show. I want you to know that. And I can't thank you enough for taking all this time. I know you're pulled in 80 different directions, and thank you very much for doing that. And I look forward to watching the matchup show. Everybody watch the matchup show tomorrow night and all weekend long. And Sal, we're doing a post-op. Hopefully it's a successful one, but we'll have you back here next week to wrap up the season, all right?
All right, looking forward to it, Pat.
All right, Sal Pal. Thank you very much, Sal. Great segment there with Sal Paolantonio. Another great segment coming up with, of course, the immortal Sean Green. Before we get to Sean, those of you in the chat, here we go, gang. My trivia question this week. Let's get all fired up for it. Let's focus now, okay? But it's a pretty simple one. But you got to give me the complete answer here. All of you in the chat. Green, you're not eligible to win my This Week of Pro Football T-shirt, but everybody else is. The question is this. I want you to just name me the two teams that have lost the most Super Bowls and give me the number. Don't look it up now. Name me the two franchises that have lost the most Super Bowls and how many they lost. It's the same number. They're tied with the most losses. All right? When we get back, Sean Green's going to join me. We're going to talk some picks and props and why Sean, I know, is big on the Eagles. We'll do that next on This Week in Pro Football.
What on earth are you doing? We have dinner reservations in 15 minutes.
I'm trying to figure out who to start in my fantasy football lineup. Every website I check has a different opinion. It's driving me crazy. How do you set your lineup so fast?
I have a secret weapon that will blow your mind.
Wow. What's the secret?
I've been using fantasyguru.com for all of my fantasy football decisions.
Fantasyguru.com? Isn't that with that crazy guy, Jeff Mans?
You mean the legendary fantasy guru, Jeff Mans? He's a genius. Fantasyguru.com has everything you need to dominate your league. Starts, sits, busts. It's like having a fantasy football expert panel in your corner.
Wow, fantasyguru.com. But I feel like you're cheating on me.
How do you think I won our league last year? Fantasyguru.com. It'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Join fantasyguru.com today. Use the code NEW30 for 30% off instant savings.
Evolution Energy Partners has helped hundreds of businesses save millions of dollars on their energy spend. They offer electricity and gas procurement strategies, efficiency audits and engineering and financing solutions, as well as online utility bill management. To learn how your business can save, visit www.evolutionep.com or contact Chuck Herschella at 610-329-8288. Evolution Energy Partners Energy Solutions to improve your bottom line.
At Whistler Pearlstein LLP, we assemble the most effective team to handle all of your legal needs. There are players and pretenders, but our hustle and heart set us apart. In practice now for over 75 years, we're proud to be one of the most prominent full-service law firms in the Philadelphia region. We offer 17 different areas of practice, including business, corporate, and tax education law, real estate, zoning, and land development, municipal law, and litigation. Our top-rated attorneys and staff are laser-focused on client success. We strive to provide outstanding legal counsel with the highest level of care and consideration. Let us show you the Whistler way. Learn more at WhistlerPearlstein.com or email Michael J. O'Donohue at mod@whistpearl.com. WhistlerPearlstein.com or mod@whistpearl.com.
Back here this week in Pro Football. Pat Callahan joining you here. Great segment there with Sal Pal. Xander, you need to confirm this with me, but I think it's our boy Anton Barada. I think Anton got it. He's the first one I see. The answer to the question is the Patriots and Denver Broncos have each lost 5 games. A lot of answers were, of course, Buffalo, Minnesota, but they only lost 4. Of course, that's all they got to. And but it's the Patriots who have been there for just keep going and going and going, 8-5, and the Denver Broncos who have lost 5. Remember, the Broncos used to get crushed back in the day when they made it with John Elway. They finally ended up winning 2 then. But that's the answer. So, Xander, you need to confirm that I didn't miss anybody, but I think it's old AB who nailed it there. And thank you very much, everybody, for taking a shot. Let's bring this gentleman on here. And that would be the excellent Sean Green, the host of the Sports Gambling Podcast. Sean, how you doing?
Hey, what's happening? Happy Super Bowl week. Getting excited here. Thanks for having me.
Yes. I'm a little surprised you're not down there on Radio Row there, elbowing your way and getting all kinds of A-list NFL guys looking to sell something, but you decided to lay a little low this year?
Yeah, I mean, because they when they have the Super Bowl in LA and Vegas, it's super easy. Going down to New Orleans, and we if Vegas show Friday night. So yeah, just doing our studio shows here. Honestly, like from a studio setup, if you're Pat McAfee, you got a whole TV studio there. Right. If you're me and Ryan, we're like, trying to record on a card table so the lighting sucks, the audio.
I believe it, Sean. I believe it, pal, that it must be extremely difficult down there. And all the guests who are on there, they all want to be on McAfee show or on Rich Eisen or whatever. And it's got to be very tough for guys like you to wrangle.
Yeah, and too, our audience, they love us talking about gambling. They don't care if we got Eric Metcalf to talk about Tide laundry detergent. So they would rather us just talk about who we like in our props. So
yeah. I'm sure there's an official laundry detergent in the National Football League, Sean. I've no doubt.
I think it might be Tide or Bounty.
It's high tide that it was. Yes,
something in there.
All right. Sean, let's talk some football here.
No.
Stop this nonsense. Are you surprised that the line hasn't moved since it was posted at KC -1.5?
Well, it kind of has a little bit. So right now, and you can see it, Pat, if you want to keep an eye on it, you can track the money line. So, over on a book like DraftKings or whatever, the spread is still +1.5, but the Eagles money line is down to 102, and that was up to like 107. 110. So it's moving slightly. A lot of places are having the Eagles as a 1-point dog. So it's moving a little bit, but not really substantial. I would still, there's maybe a chance the Eagles are like a 1-point favorite at kickoff. I would still be a little surprised. But it does seem like the sharps and stuff are coming in on Philadelphia, and the general public, I think, has some Kansas City fatigue. So maybe they're back in the Eagles here.
All right. I noted that ESPN's they have that FPI. I think that stands for Football Power Index or Football Performance. I don't know which. They've got the Eagles at -2.2 as opposed to Kansas City -1.5. I think Philadelphia is the better team. I mean, Kansas City's postseason statistics they're just so gaudy. They're second to none. I understand that. But just lining the two teams up, Sean, don't you agree that the Eagles are they're the better team?
Well, yeah, you don't need to twist my arm to be high on this Eagles team. But I would say, Pat, that, the FPI and stuff like that, they're going off, one of the big metrics is yards per play. Kansas City is one of the rarities in that they made the Super Bowl with the negative yards per play, meaning like your average yard per play on offense, your average yard per play on defense. They should be losing way more than they have. Obviously, why they're winning, because they got a good coach and they got Patrick Mahomes there. So it's basically, hey, if you're a guy who bets quarterback, head coach, you seem to find yourself on the Chiefs. If you're a guy who bets the roster, stats, everything else, you got to be on the Eagles there. And I think mojo-wise, breaking up the three-peat like the Eagles did against the Patriots, I think they do it again here.
All right. What are your thoughts on I know you're not a big over-under guy, but 48.5. These two teams met 2 years ago and ran up a 73 number. Are you a little surprised the number's only 48.5?
Yeah, it's interesting because, and the Eagles play really good defense. Obviously the Chiefs have had trouble getting over 30 points this season. The Bills in the AFC Championship game, that was the first time they broke the 30-point barrier. And the Eagles are very good at not giving up, more than 24. So there's certainly, and the Eagles obviously number one defense. So there are metrics pointing to that. Now, I think that it's somewhere in between, right? So when they played in the Super Bowl in Super Bowl 57, 73 total points. When they had that rematch in Kansas City in 2023, there was only 38 points. So I'm kind of splitting the difference. I got it 32-23, so slight to the over. But yeah, I feel better about some of the props and the side than I do necessarily the total.
All right.
This is 27-18. I can totally see that as well.
I am not going to bother you, but let me just a one-off, and you don't have to give me any examples. Do you actually, Sean Green, the wizened old veteran of NFL prognostication, do you actually get involved in, like, is the national anthem going to be over or under, or what color Gatorade? Did you bother with any of that stuff, or do you just stick to between the lines?
Yeah, you get these bonus bets, you get a couple extra free dollars. Maybe I'll put something on it. But I did notoriously, someone contacted me years ago and said they had inside information that they knew the Puppy Bowl. They knew the winner of the Puppy Bowl. This was back when they were taking bets on the Puppy Bowl. And I bet that what this guy recommended, because he claimed he had inside information. And of course it was wrong, and I got destroyed by it. So since then, I've really... I'll throw maybe like $5 on.
All right, well, that's nothing.
No,
all right, give me some props. Give me some props. Talking with Sean Green here from the Sports Gambling Podcast. Give me some game props that it may. I know it's only Wednesday and they might change, but just give me some that you like or that have caught your eye, Sean. As far as, and don't bother with the Hurts anytime TD, which is I know plus minus 3,900. But just give me.
The Hurts is like minus 105, Pat. So
that's unbelievable. I don't understand it. I don't understand. Why wouldn't you just put $105,000 down?
Yeah,
and win $100,000. He's going to score a touchdown. There's
going to get in the end zone.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts isn't going to score a touchdown. Are there any others that you're looking at?
Well, I won't. I'm not going to waste your time for Jalen Hurts 2 touchdowns. I'll just let you know that's plus 550. I don't mind that. As far as just regular old player props, Devontae Smith, I think, could have a good game in this matchup. He's done very well against the Chiefs historically. In 3 games, he's averaged 107 receiving yards against the Chiefs. If you recall, Mac Hollins randomly had a very good game there for the Bills against the Chiefs. I think that's kind of similar routes we're going to see out of Devontae Smith. So I really like Devontae Smith to have a big game. His over-under is set at 51.5 receiving yards. I also think he could be the first guy 220 receiving yards. He did that in the conference championship against the Commanders. That bet is 6-1 that Devontae is the first guy to 20 receiving yards, and he easily could get a 20-yard catch early in the game. So that's some receiving props that I like.
Yeah, okay. And what do you happen to know what's the Saquon number?
Over
under?
It's 112.5, and wow. I think you got to take the over if you're messing with it.
Wow. Is that a rushing or is that yardage?
That's rushing yards. Yeah.
Wow.
His rushing and receive, but that's down from last week. It was set at like 125, and he went under it. And part of that was they were probably going to, didn't want to burn him out there. They put in Will Shipley at the end of the game, but yeah, you can't take under at Saquon Barkley. You just,
that's amazing.
Why get cute with it? The Eagles, even if they get down, they're still going to commit to the run because they got explosive plays in the running game. So, everyone says, oh, hey, we're just going to load the box. But loading the box, what you're doing is the second level defenders are coming up, and that increases the chances of Saquon breaking one long because he can get to that second level quick, and then good luck after that. So it's a crazy high number, but you got to take the over on Saquon. Can't take the under.
All right, Sean Green, I know that you guys use the same nerds at Sports Gambling Podcast as Elon Musk is using at Doge. What effect, if any, do you see Ron Torbert having on the game?
Yeah, I was hearing Sal talk about him before the game. So conspiracy theory for me is the NFL Referees Association came out and said, hey, all this stuff about we're rigging it for the Chiefs, that's unheard of. These allegations are crazy. You heard from the commissioner and the NFL Referee Commission that they are not rigging it for the Chiefs. To me, where the Eagles are in the refs' heads already. So I think if there's anything close, I actually think it's going to break the Eagles' way.
And I do too, Sean. I think you're exactly right. I do too. And I think that could be an important thing, not so much for what happens during the game, for what doesn't happen during the game, which is that flag coming down when Mahomes takes off for a 7-yard run on 3rd and 6, and the Chiefs get
stops right at the line and waits to get hit to try and draw the flag. Where I could see it impacting the game, and I think it could help the Eagles, is the Tolbert crew, at least Tolbert himself, is known for some offensive holding calls. So I think, especially interior, Jalen Carter going up against some of the weaker offensive guards there for the Chiefs, he could draw some holding calls. And I think that could put the Chiefs in some pretty long down and distances. So the Chiefs getting called for offensive holding is a call I'd look out for in this game.
Sean, before we get to your actual game pick, as if we don't know it, one other one I saw on BetMGM, I saw Jalen Hurts plus 370 to win MVP. I was surprised at how high that number was. I mean, if it's not Patty Mahomes, then it's almost going to default to Jalen Hurts. I think that's a great number. You seeing similar numbers for Hurts MVP?
Yeah, no, and I totally agree with the logic. Like, taking my fandom out of it, I understand Saquon's been awesome and he's great and he's had a great year, and hats off to Saquon. Certainly deserves a ton of awards. He's going to win Offensive Player of the Year, spoiler alert. But these prices should be the same. Jalen Hurts shouldn't be this big of a favorite over Saquon Barkley, because if it's close, they give it to the quarterback. We see this every single year. And even last year, where Christian McCaffrey, was carrying Brock Purdy along the entire season, they were pretty close in MVP odds going into that game. The fact that Jalen Hurts is this big of an underdog compared to Saquon, it's tremendous value. I mean, the Eagles are pretty much even money, maybe like plus, like I just said, plus 102, plus 105, and their quarterback is plus 370 to win MVP. Yeah. That's crazy. That's crazy pricing.
All right, so you like the Eagles, obviously, plus the 1.5, right?
Yep. Oh, well, no, I don't need those points, Pat. Give me the Eagles on the money line. I don't want your stinking 1.5. And yeah, Hurts is my official MVP bet. And if Saquon wins it, I'll be excited and I'll celebrate it. But money-wise, that's a great price.
All right, Sean Green. Where does everybody will find you in the Vegas show? When does it premiere? Friday?
Yeah, we're going to be live from the Circuit Casino on the Great Visa Network. You can get that on Sirius, 8 o'clock Pacific, 11 o'clock East. Friday night, great energy, I'm sure, at the sportsbook there. Hours before kickoff there. So check that out. And Sports Gambling Podcast, we're giving out 59 props for Super Bowl 59.
That all? Look at you. Aren't you guys clever? Nothing gets past the guys.
No, it's great marketing.
All right, Sean Green, thanks a lot. Have a great show Friday, and I want you to wrap it up with me next week, all right?
Yep. I'll talk to you next week.
All right. Thanks very much, pal. All right. Great Sean Green joining me here. There's no one as great as this gentleman is going to join me in just a minute. And that would be the great Ray Didinger. Going to talk to Ray about where he ranks this Eagle team amongst the 65 or so that he has seen in his storied career. We'll talk about that. And also just some absolutely dramatic numbers for Andy Reid. We'll do all that next here on a Super Bowl edition of This Week in Pro Football.
Welcome to Park Bank, a return to better banking. With 7 locations across Philadelphia and South Jersey, we prioritize your financial well-being with a blend of modern amenities and traditional customer service. Our professional team is dedicated to providing tailored banking solutions, whether you are opening your first account, planning for retirement, or expanding your business. Our services include a wide range of personal and business banking options with competitive deposit rates and products. We are committed to making your banking experience seamless and efficient, with the latest technology at your fingertips and the personalized support you deserve. Park Bank, your community. For more information, go to parkbank.com. That's Park, P-A-R-K-E, bank.com. Member FDIC. Concrete Cutting Systems Incorporated is the concrete cutting specialist in the Philadelphia area since 1995, and they've become the specialist in the Pittsburgh area as well. These guys are celebrating 28 years as the industry leader in the field of concrete cutting and robotic demolition. So if you have a project that requires any type of concrete cutting or drilling, concrete demolition, or interior excavating, call the specialist, Concrete Cutting Systems, located at 2514 Orthodox Street in the heart of Philly. Call them at 215-533-0652. With a fleet of over 70 service trucks, Concrete Cutting Systems Incorporated is always ready to service all of your concrete cutting, drilling, and concrete demolition and highway sealing needs. These guys are the only full union concrete cutting company based in Philadelphia. So don't delay. Call the boys today at 215-533-0652. And be sure to check them out on Facebook and Instagram at CCSINC_Phila or on the web at concretecuttingsystems.net.
Welcome back here this week in pro football. Just looking at some of the chat. Thanks very much, guys, for joining in this chat. And you guys are right. Please hit that like button. Hit that like button about 40,000 times. I'd appreciate that very much. I appreciate having this gentleman on. And that would be the author of Finished Business, the author of the Eagles Encyclopedia, longtime contributor on Comcast Sportsnet. And of course, back when I was a young guy, a writer for the Philadelphia Bulletin, the Daily News. That would be, of course, the excellent Ray Didinger. Ray, how are you?
I'm fine, Pat. How are you doing?
All right. Thanks for joining me, Ray. Then congratulations on a very successful run of the play Tommy and Me. Outstanding. I hope lots of people watching this show got to see it, Ray. So good on that. I know you're working on another one, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm working on another one, and we've got the run that you came to out at People's Light Theater out in Malvern. We just closed on Saturday after pretty much a full month run, and it went great. We sold the house out every night, and it went so well that the theater had told us they want us back next year. So we'll be back in Malvern in 2026, and really looking forward to that.
Well done. Good for you. All right, Ray, let's get started. I got a ton of things to ask you, so let's get going. What do you think has propelled the Super Bowl to be such an unbelievable, all-encompassing media event? And I'm saying as opposed to, say, the other three major sports in the United States.
Well, I think it sort of dovetails with the growth and popularity of just professional football in general. I think over these I guess going on 60 years now, we've seen the sport of professional football just explode and go past everybody else. So it stands to reason that their championship game would too. But I think one of the big draws to it is it's just one game. It's not best of 5. It's not best of 7. Right. The World Series, the NBA Finals, the Stanley Cup. Right. It's best of 7, right. Which is dramatic. Yeah. We always talk about that. Yeah. But Super Bowl, it's one game. And everything's on the line in that one game. And I think that's pretty compelling. That's pretty compelling drama. Right. And, we went through a long stretch there, like in the 80s, when the games weren't very good, which was a shame. I mean, the games became kind of anticlimactic. But that hasn't been the case lately. I mean, over the last couple of decades, the Super Bowl games have been really, really good games. Yeah. Like the one we saw just a couple of years ago with the Eagles and the Chiefs. Yeah.
Yeah, it has been. You're right. It's been very engrossing the last couple of years. And Ray, I don't expect anything different in this game. I really don't. It's the line has stayed very close all week long. But these two teams, I don't think the country's going to watch it. I don't think they're terribly excited about it because, the Eagles are not as popular as they should be, is my opinion. The Chiefs, I think there's a serious amount of fatigue against Kansas City. But if you would, Ray, just talk about this Eagles team now, this 2024 version of the Eagles. You have seen Eagles teams, you and I have seen them going all the way back to the mid-'60s, and we have seen some real buttes going 2-12 or 2-11-1 or whatever in front of a packed house at Franklin Field. Where does this team rank among the most talented teams that you've seen covering the Eagles?
In terms of the overall talent on the roster, this is probably the best, top to bottom. I think. I think that if you look back over the entire history of the franchise, which I'm kind of doing now because I'm rewriting the Eagles encyclopedia in anticipation of the fact that if the Eagles do win this game, we're going to have to come out with an all-new edition. So I've been digging through the history, and I'm still kind of at the point where I was a long time ago. I think the 49 team is probably the greatest team they've ever had.
Yeah.
That was the team that won the second of the back-to-back world championships.
Right.
Van Buren was at his peak. Bednarik was a rookie on that team, and they were 11-1 during the season. And if you look at the point differential, how much they outscored their opponents by that year, just ridiculous in that era of football. Yeah. So I think that, to me, right now stands as the best team in Eagles history. But if these guys complete the journey on Sunday and they win this game and dethrone the two-time world champions, you can make a pretty strong case that maybe this team is number one.
All right, Ray, following up on that, then I asked Sal Pao earlier in the show if it was even conceivable that this Eagle team, which is just such a gaudy record and has played so incredibly well all season long, might be considered a failure if they don't win this game Sunday. His answer was yes, they will be. What's your take on that?
Oh, I wouldn't say that. Yeah. I wouldn't say that. No. If it's down to one game, and you're playing the two-time defending world champion. Does anybody? People are tired of the Chiefs. I totally get that. But do people not respect what this team has accomplished? The Eagles they're taking on a team that's a freaking dynasty. That's what they are. You can not like them if you choose not to. If you can say what you want to say about Mahomes and you're tired of Taylor Swift. I get all that. But you look at what they've done over the last half dozen years. They rank with the best teams of all time. So if the Eagles come up short against them on Sunday, the idea that their season was a failure, no, I don't buy that at all.
Well, let's contextualize it a little more. Throughout your years on Comcast Sportsnet, your ear was to the ground as well as anybody in the greater Philadelphia area. Let's face it, it's a demanding sports town, and it's a town that has been fired up by this team all season long, and it's just hitting, it's crescendoing right now. You don't think that the reaction would be intensely negative on the team if, in fact, they don't bring that Lombardi Trophy home Sunday?
Wouldn't be for me. Everybody's free to draw their own conclusions from it. Right. But they are underdogs. It's not like the Houston Texans came out of the AFC and that's who you're playing here, and you're a 6-point favorite and you lose that game. Well, yeah, then maybe you could look at the season as a failure. But I wouldn't. The Chiefs are. You look at what this team has accomplished. You look at the players. They got the best quarterback in a generation. They got one of the great coaches ever. A guy that by the time his career is over is likely to hold all the records. No, I don't see. Look, if the Eagles were, I guess it depends to some degree in the manner in which they lose. If they go down there and they get, and they lose 48-7.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, maybe we can have that discussion, but I don't see it being that kind of a game. I think it's going to be a tight into the fourth quarter kind of game, a lot like the game 2 years ago. Right. And if you lose that kind of game to a team that has the kind of history that the Chiefs do, you gave it your best shot and you came up short, but I don't think there's any disgrace in that.
All right. I think that's totally fair assessment. I'm just obviously well attuned to how fickle the fan base could be here. But
let's put it this way, Pat. Let's compare that to the end of the last Phillies season.
Right.
Okay. Phillies won the National League East. Okay.
Right.
But how do people feel when they look back on that season? How are they going to say, "Wow, we won the NFC East"?
No question.
No. They're going to say, "God, we got in the playoffs and we fell on our face against the stinking Mets." Yeah. that was a season that on paper looks like a success, but feels like a failure.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
That's. I don't think you're dealing in that kind of a situation here.
I appreciate the distinction. I do, but I just think that the performances of so many individual Eagles, such as Saquon and the rookies and the guys that Howie Roseman has drafted, it's just they've all hit such a peak. But okay, I want to. Talking here with Ray Didinger. Ray, let me get to the other sideline here for just a minute, and I am. How can you not be impressed with the job that Coach Reid has done? Not just with the Chiefs, anybody who's got Patty Mahomes. Now, Reid deserves credit for trading up to get him because he saw, I think, what Mahomes could do. But, this is a guy who's only 46 behind Don Shula for taking over the all-time number of wins, coaching wins in NFL history. He's only 3 behind Bill Belichick for most postseason wins. And he would join Bill Belichick and Chuck Noll as the only coaches to win 4 Super Bowls. How does this guy do it?
Those of us that followed him for the 14 seasons he was in Philadelphia appreciate the way the guy prepares, the way he coaches, the way he develops players. I thought watching him over the course of his time in Philadelphia, I was very impressed by just the way he went about business. I've always felt that I could go to a training camp or a football practice and watch a team for 3 or 4 days and have a pretty good sense of what kind of a season they're going to have just by how the coach runs the practice, how well organized it is, how they drill the players. Is there a lot of wasted time? Is there a lot of fooling around? Is there a lot of nonsense that goes on? Or when they go out there, do they make the most efficient use of the time they have? And with Andy Reid's team, you saw that right from day one, that this was a guy that was incredibly well organized. And you saw that with that team. He took over a team that was in pretty bad shape in '99 and had them in the playoffs in year 2. So I thought in terms of building a program and developing a program, I thought that he was an outstanding coach, which he demonstrated over that period of time. Once he got them to that level, he was able to keep them there, which the NFL makes it very hard for you to do. I think that now, to be honest with you, this Andy 2.0 that we're now dealing with in Kansas City, I think is far better in terms of game management than the Andy we had in Philadelphia. Andy's shortfall as a coach during his time with the Eagles was handling within the game.
Yes.
Was handling time,
timeouts. I agree. Timeouts, down a distance. You're certainly right.
All of that criticism was entirely valid, and especially in some big games. That's not so true anymore. And I thought that, and this is a very painful thing to say in Philadelphia, but I thought the second half of that Eagles-Chiefs Super Bowl 2 years ago might have been the best 30 minutes of coaching in Andy Reid's career.
Yeah.
That he came out 10 points down, comes out in the second half with a quarterback playing on one leg. Right. And by running the ball and by drawing up some new pass plays, he winds up winning the game and managed the clock beautifully, saved all of his timeouts for when he needed them. It was a masterclass in coaching in that game. And I think that's kind of where Andy is right now. And when you talk about the great coaches in NFL history,
I know.
He's right there.
He is. And it's funny. I talk all the time about it. Nick Sirianni doesn't get a lot of respect. Reid, really, when you think about the chiseled visage of Chuck Noll or, of course, Lombardi or Shula with the iron jaw, and along comes Andy Reid looking like the guy from the Kool-Aid pitcher, and yet he's going to be right up there, if not at the very top. It's an amazing thing. All right, Ray Didinger, how do you see it going? Give me your take on this game. Do you see a different outcome than that which we saw 2 years ago?
I think the game is going to be very similar. I think it's going to be high scoring. I think there's going to be a lot of big plays, and I think it's going to be close in the fourth quarter. I just feel like that's the way it's going to be. Now, I think this Eagles team, is better than the team of 2 years ago. I think Barkley obviously gives you a whole different dimension on offense.
Right.
And the personnel, especially that you have in your defensive secondary, far better than what you had 2 years ago, which to me really increases the Eagles' chances of winning. But there's nothing original here in me saying this, but if it's a close game in the fourth quarter, man, if it's close with 5 minutes to go and Mahomes has got the ball in his hands, that's trouble. That bad.
Will be trouble. I certainly agree with that, but I think the Eagles are going to win it. I do. I just think their talent is substantial, and I do think they are going to win this game. I mean, I don't know.
Well, we talked about it, and I find myself kind of leaning that way too, because I do think that they're a better team. I think that their speed on defense, their physical play on defense, I think is far better than it was 2 years ago. And I think, a combination of that offensive line and Barkley that's hard to do.
It is. It's hard to beat. It certainly is. Yep. If there's one area the Chiefs lack, it's they just don't have a real stud in that backfield. And I don't think Reed really places a high premium on it, to tell you the truth. But God knows what his offenses would look like if he had a guy like Barkley in there. But it's interesting. We'll see how that evolves. But all right, Ray, I'm sorry. The time just flew by. But I appreciate you taking the time. And I'd love that. Somehow I'll find you during the off season and we'll chat about this. And good luck writing that encyclopedia again. Oh my God. I heard you come up with an estimate like 95,000 words or some ungodly number like that.
My projection is 95. I've got to crank out 95,000 words between now and March 7th.
Oh my God, Ray. All right. Well, you better stop talking. And start writing. But
no, I listen. The bad part is the book only comes out if they win.
Okay.
So I have a deep rooting interest.
Okay, fair enough. Ray, thanks very much for taking the time, pal. I appreciate it. Look forward to talking to you again.
Always a pleasure, Pat. Take care. Bye-bye.
Right, thank you very much, Ray Didinger, joining me there. I can't wait to talk to this next gentleman. That would be the great Mike Sando from The Athletic. Mike is in New Orleans. He covers every Super Bowl. So we'll get his take and ask him about did Howie Roseman engineer one of the best off seasons ever. We'll do that next to wrap up a Super Bowl edition of This Week in Pro Football.
Somewhere on the blue planet lies a hidden gem, nestled in the heart of lush greenery, where the game of golf takes on a new meaning. At Spring Mill Country Club, we offer an unparalleled golfing experience. Our meticulously maintained course is designed to challenge and delight golfers of all levels. But that's not all. Spring Mill is also the perfect venue for your most cherished celebrations. From intimate gatherings to grand weddings, our elegant banquet facilities provide the perfect backdrop for your special day. With exquisite cuisine, personalized service, and breathtaking surroundings, every event at Spring Mill becomes a cherished memory. Let us be a part of your journey, whether it's a round of golf, a celebration, or a once-in-a-lifetime wedding. Spring Mill Country Club, where every moment is extraordinary. Visit us today and create your unforgettable story.
Welcome back. We've got another exciting play underway at KennedyAuto.com.
That's right. At KennedyAuto.com, you can browse their entire inventory from home.
The customer is scrolling hundreds of Ford, Mazda, and Subaru vehicles right at his fingertips.
He made his selection and got a bottom line price set directly to his email. He could go all the way.
And the deal is good, all without leaving his couch. Incredible. KennedyAuto.com. Enjoy your ride.
Johnny Apple's Restaurant and Bar opened in 2001 and for over 20 years has been serving great food and good times to Bucks County residents, friends, and family. Ideally located at 184 Buck Road in Holland, Johnny Apple's offers a terrific array of steaks, seafood, and daily specials. They also host private parties and affairs of any size. For excellent food, great company, and a relaxed lunch or dinner, check out Johnny Apple's Restaurant at 215-953-9900 or at johnnyapplesrestaurant.com.
All right, back here on This Week in Pro Football on JAKIB Sports. Thanks very much, everybody in the chat. Hit that like button for me. Give me a follow at TWIPF Pat. And you can follow this guy at Sando NFL, and that would be Mike Sando, the senior NFL writer for The Athletic. 12 years with ESPN, Hall of Fame member, and he's covered every
voter.
Voter. Well, you'll be there. You'll get there, Mike. And covered every Super Bowl since 1998. Mike Sando, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
All right. Thanks very much for joining me, Michael. I know you're pulled in 1,000 different directions.
You got me in my
there.
Hotel room tonight. How about that? It's not my normal backdrop, so sorry for this inconvenient light.
Oh, no,
we'll make it work.
Mike. It's fine. Thanks for setting yourself up. Mike Sando, for those of you who don't know, is the author of something called The Pick Six on The Athletic. And I would urge everybody, The Athletic is dirt cheap. Everybody should sign up to get this online because it's dirt cheap and the information is copious and it's excellent. And especially Mike Sando's Pick Six. Does that come out every week? Do you do that, Michael?
Yeah, it comes out every Monday, all season through the playoffs, regular season, all that. So this next one after this game will be my last one until we get into next season.
All right. Well, I want to borrow liberally from the one that you just put out because obviously it focuses on this game. And I want to start off with your commentary in the piece about how Howie Roseman might have had one of the best off seasons ever, and what metrics you use to determine that.
So it was one of those things we hear a lot, right? This got to be one of the best off seasons ever. And I think I saw somebody tweeted it, with the list of all these players up for honors and then players new to the team to get the new coordinators. I thought, well, how do we test this? So with some help from Pro Football Reference, I was able to get the rosters for all of the Super Bowl teams going back to 1970. So 110 teams that went to the Super Bowl. Right. And then I was able to look at them and see who was new to the team. Okay. Right. So in Pro Football Reference, they put a number on everybody's season based on how good it was. And it's not perfect, but it's good. It's something that's applied uniformly over time. So it's good to compare. It's better than just my opinion, right? It's something that we can reference and look at. So when I did that, it did come back. It really passed the smell test. So the best offseason in terms of adding players from the outside was the 1994 49ers, which was, Deion Sanders and a bunch of really good players they added. But the Eagles were third. This Eagle team was third in that. So it really did validate what I think most of us felt. And then beyond that, the Eagles were the first of those 110 teams, the only one that added two new players that were first-team All-Pros, and Zach Bond and who was the surprise of the season, and Saquon, who we knew could do that. So, that's saying something. That's a lot of Super Bowl teams. So it is. They really are up there.
The addition of Zach Bond, you talk about an under-the-radar addition. It's funny because the addition of Barkley garnered all the headlines and the Giants' worst nightmare, and certainly that's proven to be true. But the signing of Bond, who heretofore was basically a special teams player in New Orleans, really speaks to the Eagles' front office ability to mine players, doesn't it?
Well, it does, but they should have signed him to a 3-year deal if we knew he was going to be this good. But what are the Saints? I mean, the Saints have to be sitting there going, how did this happen? I mean, this is one of the best players in the league on defense right now. And I think he started 6 games for him last year. So it's a great signing. It's really a great signing for them. And then, they hit in the draft pretty well too certainly the 2 first picks that they took really solidified them at the cornerback position and let them play their defense the way they played it. So it's a great off season, and they're going to need every bit of it to beat this Chiefs team.
They sure are.
Even when you think you have the better team than Chiefs, like they somehow find a way to win. So,
well, I want to talk about that too. But I was talking earlier in the show to Sal Pal about the fact that the Eagles expect from the last 4 years, their first and second round draft picks, all 8 are expected to start in this Super Bowl. That is an impressive job. I mean, that's going 8-0 on your picks there by Howie Roseman. And that's a hell of a job by the Eagles front office there. But
really good.
And borrowing from the same piece that you wrote in The Athletic, Patrick Mahomes, I spent some time talking with Sal too about the way to beat Mahomes, which seems odd if you think about it, is to keep the ball in his hands. Can you talk about that and the fact that the longer he holds the ball, the much more human he gets?
it's a little intuitive, but a little not, because it's intuitive this way. If you get the ball out of your hands quickly, that means you probably liked somebody was open and you had a chance to throw him the ball, and that's always going to be good for your offense. But on the other hand, Mahomes is so good running around with the ball. You would think that he would actually be just as good or just as effective when he has the ball in his hands. But when I was just looking for something, Pat, that would explain some common thread to the Chiefs' losses, because they win 80%. So over the years. So when I sorted them all by a bunch of different stuff, I did it by time to throw. And what I noticed was, like, his 31 games where the ball came out of his hands the fastest, they were like 30-1.
Yeah.
And the 10 games were out slowest, he was 2-8.
Yeah.
So clearly, if you can you can picture how that happens sometimes when you're a little uncertain, and then he starts to move around. He's still dangerous, still worried, but efficiency goes away and the pass rush has time. And then he may make a completion, but it's going to be a short completion, because it seems like everybody takes away, their real downfield stuff as a priority.
Yeah. It's really amazing to read that. How his record drops the longer he holds the ball. Now, maybe that's indicative, Mike, of many NFL quarterbacks.
It's not though. I have a table in there that compares him to Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, who are two other guys that you would think you don't want them to have the ball in their hands, right? Because they're going to go, and they didn't have the big drop off that he did. And I didn't. When I even looked at the league at large, and there's a slight correlation across the whole league where the quarterback production goes down a little bit as the ball's in their hands more. But with Mahomes, it's really a steep line, steeper than you would expect. And look, we're grasping for something on this guy, right? I mean, is there some way to beat him?
That's true. Yeah. But I mean, I think the Eagles, they don't blitz much, and I don't think they're going to blitz at all this game, because you got to, if you keep 7 in the secondary, make him look around. Your column says it. The numbers say your chances of defeating him go up geometrically.
Yeah. Well, what I want to see is just the Eagles, if you give too much of a soft zone, though, then they have the discipline to go, hold the ball all game too. Another thing from one of my recent columns showed that Chiefs games have the fewest possessions combined for both teams of any team's games in the league. So
that's fascinating.
Yeah, but it is. So a couple of reasons. One, if you're playing against Mahomes, you're trying to ball control yourself. You're trying to control it to keep it out of their hands, right? Because you respect their offense. And then everybody, when they play Mahomes, backs off so that they can't throw the ball down the field. They dare him to run the ball. And then Mahomes is super patient, and they'll just go down the field in 12 plays. Also, they're he's the best numbers in the league on third down.
Yeah.
And now you come into the way the league is now, where Andy Reid is going to go for it on 4th and 1 from his own 38, like he did last week, which is typically, over recent years, that would be a Philly type of thing. They would be the team doing that more, and they still are. But now Andy Reid's doing that with this quarterback, so you're sustaining drives, right? And so that's what happens. They just possess the ball a long time. The Eagles can do that too. Eagles game against Pittsburgh, I believe Pittsburgh had the ball like twice in the second half or something like that. So it may be a keep away game. Unless Barkley just has 65-yard runs half the time, which he could do.
Mike, I had this brainstorm talking with Sal Paolantonio that really these two teams match up much like the Cowboy 49er NFC title games of the 90s, where the Eagles are like the Cowboys with the top three, the trio, and the ability to go vertical, whereas the Chiefs are more the Bill Walsh type horizontal game. And I think that's a fascinating look there. And Mike, when the Eagles
were savage games back then,
I know they were
physical.
All right, Mike, in the same piece, talking about the Chiefs defense now and the fact Saquon's in that backfield. Chiefs did not give up 100 yards to a running back all season long, but the two highest running back totals occurred in the postseason. Is that any indication in your mind that the Chiefs' run defense might be weakening?
It could be. Yeah, you're right. Lamar Jackson had 122 yards on him. That was the most of anybody. That was way back in week 1. So, yeah, it could be showing that. Now, I think they'll have a special plan. I think they really will. They have to. They'll have some kind of a special plan. They may emphasize it. So it could be incumbent upon, Jalen Hurts and those talented receivers that we don't talk about anymore, to maybe make them pay for that when they do that. I think we'll see some 5 and 6 man lines on defense by the Chiefs. And maybe Leo Chenal could be a type of player that could be up there in the line of scrimmage, really trying to commit to it. So, they could slow him. He's still going to hit, because he makes you wrong even when you're right. But they could, I think they're going to emphasize that. So does he get, is he over 150 yards? That would surprise me a little bit. I could see him having the 105 or 110 type game.
Yeah. Well, I guess, Michael, it all comes down to, I've never seen a running back with an ability to go to the house from his own 35-yard line like this guy has done this season. I'd have to guess it's got to be an NFL record for the largest number of over 50-yard touchdown runs in a season.
That's a great one. I'll look that up. I think of somebody like Eric Dickerson, to me was super fast, tall, long, just an incredible runner and big. So I can see somebody like that, but I didn't know what's his number. How many 50+ yard touchdowns?
Well, I'm just thinking I know he had 2 against the Rams during the regular season. He had 2 more against them in the postseason. He took off for 1 against Washington. So, I'm just saying there's at least 5 there. And, but it's just extraordinary to watch this guy run behind this offense.
Yeah, it is. And then even if you play good defense, he still can take it.
I know.
He can still take it to the house.
I know.
I'm going to see here. So I did find something. This is several years ago. So Barry Sanders, Adrian Peterson, I think had 7 of them in the season. So, but he may be up there. That's a good one. That's a good note. I'll look up and I'll look into that.
Well, that's pretty good company to be in right there. Right there.
Oh, he's really something. He's really something. The other thing that's notable about this game is the footing's going to be good, and that was a big deal when these teams played last time, and we talked about it from an Eagle defense standpoint. But I think Saquon's probably dangerous on a sticky track too.
Yeah. All right, Mike Sando. This is by my count now. Tell me if I got this right. This is your 27th Super Bowl, not including the one you missed because of the COVID.
I think so. Yeah, we missed the COVID one. The 1998 season was the first one, so I have done them all since then, except for the COVID year. I'm not sure what the number is, but it's somewhere around there. Blessed to be able to do it, and love it every time. New Orleans is a great city for this too. Everything's close together. It's 70 some degrees out, which it wasn't a couple of weeks ago. There was a foot of snow on the ground, but it's been great here.
That's good. Well, how do you see it, Michael? Tell me your thoughts on this game coming in, and which color confetti do you think's coming down when the game's over?
Well, I feel like last week when I picked, I felt like the Bills had a great chance to win. I thought they were probably a little bit of a better team, and yet the Chiefs find a way to win it. So I kind of feel the same way, where I do feel like the Eagles should have a good chance to control both lines of scrimmage. But how do you pick against? I can't pick against Kansas City. You seem so dumb. You feel so dumb when they just win anyway. So maybe it catches up to them. I thought it was going to last week. I thought Buffalo was going to get them. Buffalo's really matched up well with them, and they've played good in the playoffs. What's interesting to me though, in looking at these playoffs, I felt Lamar Jackson was sloppy in the first half against Buffalo, and it cost them. I thought Josh Allen was sloppy in the first half against Kansas City. So this Chiefs team, maybe the Eagles can make them be that way, but they're pretty on point the whole game. So that's something to look for. I know the Eagles have been very good, but you can't give away possessions with these guys. And I felt like Buffalo did that. They just so if it's everyone's hyped up early and Jalen Hurts sails a pass or something like that.
No, that's fair, Mike. That's fair.
That's what's happened.
Right. Because like you said a minute ago, if there's not going to be that many possessions in the game because the Chiefs games don't allow it, you can't afford to gratuitously give up many of them.
The red zone will be very interesting. The Eagles' defense is excellent in the red zone. I think the Chiefs are going to move the ball on them. I do, but I think the Eagles are good in the red zone, and so if they could get them to a couple field goals early, it wouldn't surprise me to see the Eagles up to a 14-3 type of a lead.
Yeah,
that would be great for them. It would be
Right.
great for them, and
Yeah.
yet you just know Mahomes is going to pull out
I
some
know.
crazy
Remember, they were
stuff
up
we saw against the
20
49ers.
They were up 24-14 2 years ago. But the other thing, the Eagles, 10 turnovers this year, forced 10 forced turnovers, none on their side. And I think that's absolutely critical against the Chiefs. You give
The
this
Chiefs
guy
don't have turnovers either. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
fascinating. Which team's offense might crack in terms of actually turning the ball over? You got two pretty seasoned teams here. And that'll be a very interesting statistic to watch too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be a fun game. It's going to be a fun game, and I'll enjoy whatever the outcome is. I think it's a great story either way. I think if the Chiefs win, they've got some amazing history. How about this? What if we just hope that no one's talking about the officiating afterwards, which is inevitable. Somebody probably will, but that would be
That's an
nice.
excellent point. That's an excellent
That
point.
would be nice.
I hope that's been neutered. I do too. Even sitting here outside of Philadelphia, I hope that's been. I don't want to hear any of that from Eagle fans, please. I don't. We don't want to give them any for that.
I just hope there's not a bad call, like a 50-50 call. Like the Chiefs clearly benefited a couple times here in the playoffs when it could have gone the other way. And you just hope those are even out. I'd like to see those even out in the game and have it not be anything that anybody can cling on to. And
All right. Well, listen, Mike Sando, I want to thank you very much for taking all this time, Mike, and for joining me this season. And I appreciate it very much. And I'll be back here next year, and I will drag you back onto this screen.
Can't wait.
And please, everybody, check out The Athletic. Mike Sando's Pick Six column. It's always outstanding. And make sure you look him up and at Sando NFL. Michael, thank you very much, pal.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Great, Mike Sando. All right. That'll do it for this week's show. We will be back next week for a post-mortem. And I'd love to talk to the chat guys about, God forbid, the Eagles lose. I think it's worth exploring. Will the season be a failure if they lose that game? I have a feeling Sal's right and Ray's not right. I think Eagle fans will look upon this season as not a success if they lose this game Sunday, which really isn't fair, as gaudy as their record has been. But I think that's the way it would go. But anyway, thanks very much to Sal Paolantonio for joining me. Of course, Sean Green, Ray Didinger, Mike Sando. Thanks to all of you on the chat for staying with me through the show. Look forward very much talking to all of you next week on the post-mortem edition of This Week in Pro Football after the Super Bowl. Enjoy the game, everybody, and we'll talk to you next week. Good night.